My name is Metamela, and you're watching the Holographic Heartscape. I'm here to talk with you today about a very important and timely topic. It is concerning dropping down into the heart space. A lot of you have been asking me, what exactly does this mean to drop into the heart space, and how we're approaching our perspective to life. So I'm going to be talking about what that means today. So from the human perspective, we have something that in more recent times we have decided to call the ego. Now, the ego gets a really bad rap in our culture lately. In a culture where people are, really excited about selfies, and some people frown at that, some people embrace it. People talk about what it means to have a big ego, or that we need to destroy the ego. So I just want to clarify first, what is the ego? So the ego is actually what individuates us as human beings. Now this might sound kind of strange to you, or something that you've never even thought about, but because we are divine perspective, actually source singular perspective, channeling into an individuated human perspective, we need a device that actually does a really good job at convincing us that this is our reality, that this is our experience as an individual human, that we're not God, that we are human, right? So this may or may not concur with your current perspective, but this is just something to try on for size. And so the ego is kind of like the lens in a camera, maybe remember the old not automated, but manual cameras, where you have to actually really focus the lens to get it to focus clearly, so that there's not too much or too little light with the aperture and all of that. So our ego functions in a similar way. It is the thing that focuses our divine light into the individual human perspective. And the point of being human actually is to have diversity of perspective, all relaying back to source, so that source can actually see itself. Now, humans are not the only beings that are contributing to source perspective. The trees, the animals, the stars, planets, every single thing in existence is a type of its own consciousness that is relaying information back to source so that it can perceive itself. Kind of like a big giant computer. Now, the other part of our technology as humans that is very, very important, and the most advanced piece of technology in the body, is not the brain. And yes, every part of the body is intelligent. But the most advanced and oldest piece of technology in the body is actually the heart. Now, the heart draws from source to make the heart beat. This is very similar to how, if you've ever heard of 0-point energy, similar to what Tesla discovered, and similar to John Bedini, which is actually a modern scientist. He builds machines that actually run on free energy being drawn from the cosmos. Our heart does the same thing when it beats. It's pulling energy into the body, and in a way that doesn't require any batteries. So all of life does this, and it draws light from the sun. And there is something called the upper torsion, which is the first part of the beat in the heart, and that is drawing in the yin energy, while the second part of the beat is drawing up the telluric or earth power, which is the physical matter. It is also the part of ourself that tells you, I am not God versus I am God. So every time that your heart beats, there's a part of you that is saying, I am God, I am not God. So this is the aspects of the human experience that one might call duality, to be or not to be, as Shakespeare put it. So now we have the two different components that creates the human experience. I am not. I hate this, I love this. Every single type of emotion that you can experience is drawn upon this dualistic technology. So, for a lot of us right now, we feel a lot of heightened, what I call contrast. What I mean when I say contrast is negative feelings and emotions that are coming up. And they will come up recurringly, you'll find, because it's all based on the vibration that you hold within your body and having to do with the mind, the ideas that you hold, the subconscious beliefs that you hold in relationship to what society around you tells you that you should think or you should not think, what you should be and should not be. And so all of these play together in a complex symphony of vibrations. You've heard possibly other teachers talk about this. Teachers I greatly appreciate in how they talk about vibration is Teal Swan, Abraham Hicks, Pamela Ehrlin, and there's a number of others as well. I know that Matt Kahn is also very popular. So this is not something I'm going to go into in depth right now, because I want to focus on this video more about what it means to exactly drop into the heart space. Now, for some of you that have a difficult time connecting with the feeling of being loved, this might be an extremely difficult thing for you to connect with. I have a special place in my heart for you if this is something that feels like you. Because for you who have grown up perhaps in a scenario where your parents and people around you didn't know how to love you, then this is going to be a greater challenge for you to learn how to connect with the feeling of love. And for some of us, we have different love languages as well. So even though someone might wish to express love to you, you might not know how to receive that love because it's not in the right language or vibration or frequency for you to be able to receive it. Now, level 1 of dropping into the heart space is all about loving the self. It's all about asking yourself, as Teal Swan would say, what would someone who loves themselves do right now? For me, I prefer to say, what feels like an I love you to myself right now? And I literally will ask myself this throughout the day. What feels like I love you, Mela? What feels like I love you? Sometimes it's helpful to have it in a friend's voice. Like my good friend Irina, who's also in Teal Tribe, she literally used to say to us, like, what feels like an I love you? What feels like an I love you? And so when I first started doing it and realizing, oh my gosh, this is a really good practice, I really need to do this, I was hearing it in her voice. And it was so cute that way too, and it made me want to do it more. So I recommend doing what feels good to you in this way. And sometimes you're going to come up with a mixed vibration. I don't want you to be hard on yourself about that. A mixed vibration is when you have mixed feelings. It's hard to clarify what actually feels like self-love. Because when you are someone who's learning how to love yourself, self-destruction, masochism, punishment is actually going to be what feels more like love to you. I know when I first started hearing some of these very, very loving beings channeling information from ETs that are on the internet, I was like, these guys are some cheesy fakes, because I don't think it's possible for anyone to be that loving. And it was really annoying to me, to be honest. So once I started beginning to really truly love myself and understand what that meant, I stopped being triggered by such things, because I could actually open myself to receive this love. Now, this is not to be mistaken with something that feels like it is crossing your boundaries. If you feel like you cannot receive something from someone, it very well might be for a good reason, that your intuition is trying to protect you. So I also don't want you to force yourself to receive love from someone that it doesn't feel good to you. So level 1 is to learn how to self-love and to also love yourself using boundaries. Now, there's a lot of confusion right now about boundaries, I feel, especially in spiritual communities, because everybody feels like, oh, I should be able to do this from unity perspective, and then they want to put their own boundaries to the wayside and discredit their need for boundaries. Boundaries are a very important part of the self-love process, because what you are communicating to yourself is that something does not feel good to you, and that it's okay to do whatever you need to make yourself feel safe and self-loved. That's all it means. It's not meaning that you have to be judgmental towards someone else in the process. So think about how you can clarify that vibration and thought form, which is an idea, thought form, by separating the judgment towards someone else and what feels good to you at that time. It doesn't mean that later down the road, a year from now, what feels good to you might not change. It's only important to understand what feels good to you now and why. The more you ask yourself questions, such as, why do I feel this way? Or what is it that I actually want? What is this negative feeling trying to convey to me that I actually want? Because our emotions, our negative emotions especially, are like a treasure map, telling us where our bliss is buried. When we follow these emotions, it tells us where things are needing attention. A lot of times these negative emotions go all the way back to our inner childhood experience, or memories of our childhood that have influenced us into feeling triggered by this or that in our everyday experience. So the first level of dropping down into the heart space is self-love and understanding how to navigate setting appropriate boundaries for yourself. The more you get in practice of setting appropriate boundaries for yourself, the more you will notice that you will no longer be a vibrational match to people that don't feel good to you. Then you'll be able to move on to level 2, which is gratitude towards the people who have felt like they've wronged you. In between this phase, it may be important for you to embrace anger that you're feeling and other negative emotions as well. There's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with feeling like I don't like something, even if it seems like something that other people are fine with. Don't compare yourself to other people, because your inner child and you need to feel validated. That's your ego. That's a very important function of your ego. So I don't want you to dismiss these things or to try to shorten this phase in order to get to the next level of your self-realization. And so the level 2 is something that can also be practiced somewhat in level 1. But as you move more and more into level 2, it's going to become easier for you to experience gratitude from every single aspect of your experience. So, for example, one of my triggers, because of experiences I've had as a child, is images of women that I feel to be exoticizing. Now, examples of this are like, well, it's complicated, to be honest. And sometimes I'm not even sure why I react with a trigger towards one image of a woman versus another, to be honest. And sometimes in the groups that I'm a part of, I've been very triggered by imagery that to other people might feel celebratory of the female form, and they find no shame or anything wrong with it. So in order to respect myself from level 1, I first acknowledge that something doesn't feel good to me and that I don't like it. And then I try to understand why. Why exactly? And I chase it back to the root of that intention, of that understanding what it is that's coming up, that emotion. And honestly, I can get into more later the exact process that I follow for shadow diving. It's somewhat similar to Teal's process. It's also somewhat similar to Pamela Ehrlin's process. And then now, as I've been integrating these emotions, it's becoming easier for me to have gratitude to the people who have triggered me. And that's because it's been the interaction that I've needed in order to integrate. From this, I can start to see things from other people's perspectives, not just my own, and that's starting to feel really good to me. So I'm starting to shift my awareness from my sense of my ego to being more one with everyone in humanity, where I can feel all of their perspectives. And it feels good to me to say that we've explored all of these different things, even if some of those things are dark. Even if some of those things from this perspective don't feel good to me. When I shift my consciousness out to 4th and 5th dimension and into my Metatron source consciousness, I start to see things as the angels do, which is from sacred neutral perspective. I start to see the value in all things, even the rapists and murderers. I don't see these people as monsters. I see them as feeling disempowered and trying to find their power, trying to feel good, trying to find something that can feel like relief to them. These are also perspectives shared with other teachers as well. I'm sure that you'll recognize. But what I'm getting at is that more and more in our everyday life, when we interact with people, if we think about it less being so much in the brain and dropping down into the heart, where we feel every single thing. Now, this is going to take some practice, especially if you are working through some old wounds or triggers. Things are going to come up. It might feel like, I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. So when people say that you're wearing your heart on your sleeve, they mean that you get hurt by every little thing and that you're very vulnerable and that you're highly emotional. I personally resonate with these people. I think that they're actually more normal than people who don't wear their heart on their sleeve. But what this is going to end up looking like more and more is being centered in the heart space, to have compassion for every single person that you come into contact with. You are going to start feeling that, you know what, that person from one perspective wronged me, and I'm going to acknowledge that and feel that and embrace that emotion. But this person is also coming from their own unique perspective and has their own feelings and is just not feeling my feeling because they don't have the same abilities yet that I do. But I know that they will. So I'm patient with them. I'm compassionate. And I'm excited to see humanity step more and more into this shared heart space, which was, in fact, the original form of communication which humans shared, called telepathy. So a lot of my skills, psychic abilities, actually come through the heart space because I'm an empath. So a lot of people see things directly from the pineal gland, but my pineal gland is actually informed by what I'm receiving in my heart. So I guess that concludes my session for today. But what I would love for you to do is to write me with any questions you have next about how I can further detail this for you. And I would also love for you to share in the comments section under here ways that you are learning to live from the heart. So thank you very much for watching today. I love you all very much. Have a good week.